Welcome back to the Wisdom of Yesteryear, your portal to the mysterious, the ancient, and the unexplained. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating conversations from the Joe Rogan Experience, featuring independent researcher Ben van Kerkwyk, also known as UnchartedX. Prepare for labyrinthine mysteries, anomalies in Egyptian artifacts, and whispers of a civilization more advanced than we've ever imagined. Let's get into it. The story begins in Hawara, Egypt, not far from the Fayum oasis. For thousands of years, whispers have circulated about a massive underground labyrinth said to lie beneath the sands. The most famous account comes from the ancient Greek historian Herodotus, who visited Egypt in the 5th century BC. Herodotus described a colossal structure containing 3,000 rooms, half above ground and half below, connected by winding passages so complex that guides were needed to find one's way. He claimed the labyrinth was a monument so vast and magnificent that it overshadowed even the pyramids. Herodotus described it as filled with reliefs and carvings, with chambers dedicated to the gods and the tombs of kings. To him, it was one of the greatest wonders he had ever witnessed. Later, writers confirmed his words. Diodorus Siculus, writing in the 1st century BC, described an immense structure with winding galleries, richly decorated halls, and impressive stonework. Strabo, a Greek geographer, wrote of a building roofed with enormous stone slabs, supported by columns, and so intricate that it was nearly impossible to navigate. Pliny the Elder and Pomponius Mela also referenced the labyrinth, each treating it not as myth, but as history. For centuries, however, the labyrinth slipped into obscurity. By late antiquity, little trace of it remained above ground. Many scholars dismissed the classical accounts as exaggerations or as misidentifications of other structures. 17th century, the Jesuit traveler Claude Sicard was among the first Europeans to re-identify the location near the Fayum as the likely site. In the early 1800 seconds, French scholars such as Jomard and Cariste proposed that the visible mounds and ruins near the pyramid of Amenemhat III were the remnants of the labyrinth. Throughout the 19th century, explorers such as Vyse, Perring, and Wilkinson wrote of strange remains at the site. The most influential early survey was conducted by the German Egyptologist Carl Richard Lepsius in the mid-1800 seconds. He carefully mapped the area and suggested that the labyrinth described by Herodotus was in fact the mortuary temple of Amenemhat III. His work tied the mystery to the 12th dynasty, but still left countless questions unanswered. Later, the legendary British archaeologist Flinders Petrie arrived at Hawara in the 1880 seconds. Petrie excavated extensively around the pyramid and temple complex. He uncovered foundations, walls, and fragments of decoration. His conclusion was that the labyrinth had been dismantled in antiquity, its stone recycled by later builders. What remained, according to Petrie, was only the footprint of what had once been a colossal complex. And yet, even Petrie's findings left tantalizing gaps. He believed the surface-level structure was gone, but he could not account for the persistent descriptions of vast underground chambers. Were the ancients exaggerating, or was something still hidden below the sands? Fast forward to the modern era. In the early 2000 seconds, a project known as the Mataha expedition returned to Hawara, armed with geophysical equipment. Using ground-penetrating radar, resistivity mapping, and electromagnetic surveys, they scanned beneath the sands near Amenemhat III's pyramid. The data stunned the researchers. They detected outlines of massive subterranean structures, rectilinear forms, walls, and chambers, some stretching for hundreds of meters. The layout bore uncanny resemblance to the labyrinth described by Herodotus and Strabo. Even more extraordinary, at the center of these anomalies was a metallic reading, a 40-meter-long object buried 60 to 70 meters below ground, nearly 200 feet down. According to the scans, it was dense and metallic, unlike natural stone. What could it be? A massive sarcophagus? A structural element? Or something entirely beyond our expectations? The results electrified those who saw them. But just as quickly, the project hit a wall. The team reported being told to halt their work. The findings were classified under the justification of national security. Since then, no large-scale excavation has been permitted at Hawara. The labyrinth remains, tantalizingly, beyond reach. So what is under Hawara? Is it the tomb complex of Amenemhat III, as Lepsius proposed? Is it the labyrinth of legend, built to surpass the pyramids? Or is it a vault, constructed to safeguard knowledge through catastrophe? We do not yet know. From this mystery, Ben and Joe shifted to the artifacts themselves. Across Egypt, in storerooms and museums, there are thousands of stone vases and vessels, many dating back to the earliest dynasties. At first glance, they appear simple, but under careful examination, they reveal an astonishing level of precision. Some are made from diorite, granite, and other stones harder than steel. Their walls are as thin as 2 millimeters, yet perfectly even. Their curves are symmetrical to tolerances measured in microns. Engineers who have studied them note that such objects would challenge modern machine tools. And yet, according to mainstream history, they were made with copper chisels and pounding stones. More curious still, scientific tests on certain pieces revealed elevated levels of thorium, a radioactive element rarely present in such stone. The readings were 2 to 3 times above normal. Was this due to unusual sourcing of material or exposure to some unknown process in their creation? Either way, it doesn't fit comfortably into the conventional narrative. Mathematical analysis adds another layer. Many vessels incorporate proportions based on pi, the golden ratio, or Fibonacci sequences. These are not patterns one stumbles upon by chance. They require deliberate planning, knowledge of abstract mathematics, and the skill to translate them into physical form. For a supposedly primitive culture, this level of design is extraordinary. So, who created these objects? Egyptian texts hint at an answer. The king lists speak of the Shem-Su-Hor, the followers of Horus, semi-divine beings who ruled Egypt for thousands of years before the first pharaoh. Some traditions place their reign as far back as 12,000 years ago. Are these purely mythological figures, or memories of a real, forgotten culture? The monuments of Egypt deepen the mystery. At Karnak, unfinished columns show tool marks that don't align with the known techniques of the dynastic Egyptians. At the Serapeum of Saqqara, massive granite boxes, each weighing up to 80 tons, lie in subterranean tunnels. Their interiors are polished flat to within fractions of a millimeter. Their corners form perfect right angles. Even modern engineers admit that reproducing them would be a formidable task. Then there are the colossal statues. The fallen colossus of Ramesses at the Ramesseum originally weighed over 1,000 tons. To move such an object today would require the world's largest cranes. Yet somehow, the ancients quarried, transported, and erected such monuments. Even if possible with manpower, sledges, and ingenuity, the scale of the feat pushes the limits of plausibility. Mainstream Egyptologists insist there is no mystery. They argue that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. They suggest radiation may be natural, symmetry could come from trial and error, and that massive statues were moved with clever but simple methods, like sand ramps or water lubrication. But skeptics of the orthodox view point to anomalies that remain unexplained. Reports of titanium traces in tool grooves raise eyebrows. Titanium was not smelted or used until the 19th century. How could it appear in ancient stonework? Was it contamination or a clue to something more? Ben van Kerkwyk argues for open-mindedness. Skepticism is healthy, he says, but not when it becomes outright dismissal. To him, the weight of anomalies from the labyrinth scans to the precision vessels to the Serapeum boxes demands serious investigation. And here we step back to a larger perspective. What if civilization is far older than we think? Around 12,000 years ago, the world endured the Younger Dryas, a sudden return to glacial conditions, likely triggered by a comet or asteroid impact. This cataclysm coincides with the extinction of megafauna and a global rise in sea levels. If an advanced culture existed before then, it may have been wiped out, leaving only fragments, myths, scattered artifacts, and inexplicable monuments. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey proves the possibility. Dated to nearly 12,000 years ago, it features massive stone pillars with intricate carvings created long before agriculture or cities were thought possible. If hunter-gatherers could achieve this, why couldn't Egypt preserve traces of something even older? Perhaps the Labyrinth at Hawara was a vault, intended to safeguard knowledge against catastrophe. Perhaps the precision vessels were not ceremonial, but practical scientific instruments, or parts of a technology we no longer recognize. Perhaps the colossal statues and granite boxes were not just expressions of power, but legacies of techniques handed down from a lost civilization. Of course, we cannot ignore the alternative. The Egyptians themselves were brilliant engineers, astronomers, and builders. With determination, time, and ingenuity, perhaps they did achieve these wonders with the tools they had. The truth may lie somewhere in between, an interplay of human brilliance and inherited knowledge from an earlier age. So let's recap. A hidden labyrinth beneath Hawara, long dismissed as legend, yet supported by ancient testimony and modern scans. A mysterious metallic object buried deep underground, artifacts carved with near-machined precision, showing advanced mathematical design and strange radiation signatures. Texts referencing civilizations before the pharaohs, and monuments so vast and exact that even today they inspire awe. Are these the fingerprints of a lost, advanced civilization, or simply the result of human ingenuity underestimated by modern eyes? The debate continues, but one thing is certain. Egypt still holds secrets buried beneath its sands, waiting for those willing to look with open minds. What do you think? Are we standing on the shoulders of a forgotten culture, one that rose and fell long before history books begin? Or are these mysteries the result of our fascination with the unknown, amplifying anomalies into legends? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, give this video a like, share it with friends who love exploring mysteries, and subscribe for more deep dives into the unknown. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and stay curious.